Alright, so today's a little different. We have kind of a truncated class here, so we are going to be skipping a bunch of the talking that I usually do. Hopefully that is something that you guys actually enjoy. Instead of me talking the whole time, we're going to do some more doing, even though it's a fitting class. We're going to talk about some very basics of fitting, and then we're going to get right into some trying it out. So for those of you who have never fit a ship by yourself without, a template to follow, this will be interesting. Any questions before I get started? All right. If you don't know this already or haven't heard this already, I guess a couple of things. First off, just get rid of whatever fear of not having a good fit that you have. Nobody has a good fit when they start. Obviously, that should be obvious, but for those that need to hear it, you're going to suck at this, and that's because fitting is probably the most complex part of at least PvP in this game. It's almost nearly endless, the depth of fitting. You're going to suck, and that's okay. Don't worry about it too much. But it is extremely important. Fitting decides most fights before any two ships or fleets or whatever even get close to engaging one another. Fitting is going to decide almost all the time what the outcome is. So getting good at it is definitely a useful thing. We're going to go over some super basics, and then we're going to hop right into fitting a Gnosis. If at any point I say anything that confuses you, please speak up and let me know. I want to know about it. Okay, so basics: high slots, mid slots, low slots, and rigs. For the sake of this class, we're going to treat high slots as if they are for weapons. There are other things that you can put in high slots on different kinds of ships, but just for the very basics, 101, high slots are for weapons. And you could even throw newts and nosses in there. Again, there are many, many more things that you can actually put in high slots, but sticking to the basics, high slots are for weapons. Mid slots are either, and sometimes both, either for mobility, E-War, or shield tank. There's, situations where you'll fit all shield tank and maybe one mobility module, or a combination of all three, right? Some mobility, some E-War, and some tank. Depends on the amount of mid slots that you have, right? But just keep in mind, the mid slots on your ship are a resource. In fact, that just goes for all of your different slots. They're all a resource, and you want to use all of your resources as efficiently as possible to get the best performance out of your ship. So if you put a ton of E-War and mobility on your ship, you're not going to be able to fit a very thick shield tank, right? And vice versa. If you put a bunch of shield tanky modules on your ship, you're not going to be able to do a lot of different mobility or E-War type of things. Any questions about, again, very 101, very basic, but mid slots, or anything that I missed that anyone wants to jump in and say? Okay. So that's high slots, mid slots. Again, sticking to the very basics. Low slots are for, and again, this is super basic, damage and armor tank. Trying to think of what a third one would be, but it's pretty much damage and armor tank. Again, sticking to the basics. There are other things to put in the low slots, but we'll stick to those for the moment.
Maybe speed?
Whole tank.
Yeah, okay. Hull, you can add hull in there as well, especially since we're going to be talking about the Gnosis. Might as well talk about hull tanking. So yeah, armor or hull, or a combination of both, I suppose. But same thing applies, right? The more armor you put on your ship, the more armor modules that you put on your ship, the less damage modules you can fit to it, and vice versa. The more damage and damage application modules you put on your ship, the less armor you're going to be able to get out of it. Same goes for hull, right? If you're putting a bunch of hull modules on there, you might not be able to get more damage modules on there, vice versa. There is mobility down there. There's a little bit of mobility in like nanofibers and inertial stabilizers, and same thing again. It is a resource. Every module that you fit should be in service to the thing you want your ship to do. And I guess that's kind of what we'll get to In a second. First, we'll do rigs. For whatever reason, a lot of new players think that rigs are optional because they see that once you put it on, you can't take it off, and so they're averse to the possibility that as soon as they fit it, it's like a sunk cost or whatever. Just if you have that idea in your head, I don't know if I'm talking to anyone in here who has that idea in their head, but just toss it right out right now. Rigs are not optional. You should fit rigs on every ship you have. Sometimes there will be situations where you have 3 rig slots and 2 of the rigs that you want take up all of the what's it called, calibration on the ship, and so you don't fit the third. That's a limited case. You should fit all 3 on all your Tech 1 ships or Tech 3 ships, and then both on all your Tech 2 ships. That should never be a question. Always fit rigs. And actually, that brings up just another point. If you undock with any empty mid or low slots, you've done something terribly wrong. If you undock to go do a thing, right, with the ship that you've decided you're going to do stuff with, and there are missing mid or there are empty mid or low slots, you've done something wrong. You can have empty high slots, that's very common, but empty mid and low slots, big no. Never do that.
I got a
All
question.
right.
Is there under any circumstances that you would not fit a prop mod on?
Yeah, capital ships very often do not fit prop mods. Can I think of any other situations?
So for a Caracal, you'd always put a prop mod on.
I can't think of a single situation where I would not want a prop mod on my Caracal.
Some mission ships don't use prop mods because they don't need them.
Cop that.
True. So like a Dominix might be a decent example of where you wouldn't fit a prop mod in some cases, although that's really rough. I would always want one. Even on the slowest of ships, I'd want like an MJD on my Dominix, for example. That is mobility of a kind, right?
Yeah,
Doesn't-
Roger that.
Doesn't the Escalation Ishtar not have a prop mod?
Yeah, okay, that's fair. There are, as someone mentioned, some mission ships and just PvE in general, there are situations where you would not fit a prop mod. We're focusing on PvP here, but that's a good call out. All right, so linked in Flying Dangerous, there is a Gnosis. And what I want everyone to do is, so we're all looking at the same thing, is go ahead and click on that Gnosis, or right-click it and click Simulate, or click it and click the white lines in the top left and click Simulate. And hopefully the version you get doesn't already have modules on it.
Yeah, it's empty.
Okay, good. So this is our template, right? This is our blank slate. And the reason we're picking a Gnosis is because everyone has the skills to fly it. It literally is a day 1 ship that anyone can fly, and it's a battle cruiser, which is fun because people like big ships. So some things to note about the Gnosis before we even start trying to fit it is its slot layout, right? Every ship in the game has a different slot layout, and the slot layout is going to dictate a lot about what you can and can't, or should and shouldn't do with the ship. The Gnosis is a unique example in that it has 6 high, medium, and low slots. I'm not sure there are many other ships in the game that have equal high, mid, and low slots, but that's kind of one of the gimmicks of the Gnosis. What this means is that you can equally get away with shield or armor or hull tanking this ship, right? You're not in a situation where you have like 1 low slot, right? The Flycatcher has 1 low slot. You can try armor tanking that bad boy, but good luck. Not going to go very well. This ship does not have that problem. You can kind of pick your tank. Another thing to note while we're talking about tank, there are rules in EVE, and all rules can be broken. This is one of them that you should very rarely break. Don't dual tank your ships. There are situations for it, bait situations, things like that, but in general, fitting armor and shield tank is not a great idea. The only sort of ubiquitous module that can go on basically anything is a damage control. Alright, so I always kind of flip back and forth on what to do next. Either we can all fit this together, and we can kind of watch the stream, and you guys can again do it on your side, and we can kind of talk through how you might fit a gnosis to do a certain job, or everyone can kind of pick a thing that they want their gnosis to do, fit it, and then we can kind of share the fits and critique them. So how do we feel?
Practice makes perfect.
That's true. Okay, let's pick a thing that we want our gnosis to do. Any ideas?
What's the main thing a gnosis is usually used for?
That's a great question. It can do well, depends on the fit. Haha.
I think the hard part for me is that, like, I know of certain fits, but I don't want to just, like, copy it, you know?
You could, right? Pick a job and then fit it from scratch, right? Without looking at anything else. And if you know the fit, then that's not going to hurt you. And if you want to pick a different ship that you don't quote unquote know a fit for, you can, but it's not, pick a thing that you want the gnosis to do that maybe you haven't seen it do before. If that's what you want to try. But let's hear some ideas. What can we maybe fit our
Exploration
gnosis?
gnosis.
Okay, exploration gnosis. Great. Any other ideas?
Ratting? Yeah, ratting.
A ratting gnosis. Okay.
Mining.
Exploration hunter gnosis.
Like a counter explorer gnosis.
Yeah, hunting explorers.
Okay. Actually, that brings up a great point. Let's look at the traits on the ship.
But one more. What about dead space?
What do you mean, dead space?
Abyssals.
Can't
You
take
can't do abyssals and
can't take battle cruisers into abyssals.
Okay, noted.
Good question though. So we should show info on the gnosis and go to the traits tab. Someone asked kind of what can the gnosis usually do. This is another great place to go to get some hints at what it might be bonused for. And again, this is a very unique ship. It gets weird bonuses. Most ships in the game get a bonus based on your skill level in certain areas. This ship just gets roll bonuses. It gets flat bonuses to a bunch of different stuff. Essentially, you can select what damage to put on it, right? Right at the top, 25% bonus to medium energy turret, medium hybrid turret, medium projectile turret damage, and then 2 down below that, heavy missile and heavy assault missile damage. Anyone?
From what I see, I think it would be good at ratting because you get the scanner strength, and then you get all the heavy missile and heavy assault missile damage, and then the drone hit points. It seems like it'd be a good ratting ship, in my opinion.
Yep, you can definitely try and fit that, and we can kind of talk about where it might fall short in that if you want to try and fit one of those up. But basically at this point, you guys have heard some ideas. I'll throw some other ideas in there. A Beatty armor tanked gnosis, where you're trying to get people to come shoot at you so that your friends can come in and save you / kill them. There's another idea. You could do the same thing with a shield tank. And then something that I was working on today is a spider tanking gnosis. It might be a little too advanced for this class, but spider tanking is essentially where all the ships in the fleet have one remote repair module. They can all repair each other and do damage to the enemy fleet. It might be a little complex here, but if someone wants to try that, go for it.
How well does, like, a kitey gnosis work?
Try it out.
Like a nano gnosis maybe, or something like that.
Try it out. Like Thomas said, practice makes perfect. Part of the reason we're here is because I want you guys to be able to answer that question by going into the simulation screen here, going to the fitting screen, and seeing what you can do with it. So actually, let's try that. That's what I'm going to do while you guys are kind of fitting this up. If you want to watch what I'm doing instead of doing your own, which I would recommend against, you can watch the stream. And I'm going to try and fit up a kitey gnosis. And then in about 5-ish minutes, we'll stop wherever we happen to be and share the fits and see what we come up with. Feel free to ask questions as we're doing this. Alright, so if I'm going to fit a kitey gnosis, this is on the stream, not for them right now, because people are probably busy thinking about what things they want to do. They don't hear me talking right now. So if I'm going to fit a Chitinosis, the first thing, the most important thing is speed, right? So I want to make sure that I
So in order to,
fast
is there
enough.
like an easier way to like find modules, or do you have to like look them up on the market?
If you're doing it in the simulation tool, the simulation tool has some good filters, right? So click the button for hull restrictions, right? Filter hull restrictions. It's the one that looks like a little rifter. And that'll only show you modules that can go on your ship. And then, pick kind of where you want to start. Do you want to start with your mids, your lows, your highs? Filter based on that, and then start filling it in.
Oh, I didn't realize there was the hardware tab. Okay, that makes sense now.
Ah, yes. Okay, so speed. Speed is my first concern in the Chitinosis. Let's see what we get with the 50 MN quad lift. 1200? Not great. Not terrible. Next thing I want to keep in mind is that armor slows you down. So if I put a bunch of armor on this ship, it's going to make me slower. I want to be fast, so I don't want to armor tank it. I want to shield tank it. So we're going to look for some shield modules here. Start putting them on. Something to note for shield modules is they're always oversized. So small shield modules, sorry, 1 second. Small shield modules you will almost never see used. Medium shield modules go on frigates and destroyers, and large shield modules go on everything else, cruisers, battle cruisers, and battleships. Although it feels kind of bad to fit a large shield extender on a battleship, unfortunately. Anyway, so we're going to do larges, because we're fitting a battlecruiser here, and I'm going to go with... The Gnosis has a problem with CPU. If you look here, it has almost 3 times as much power grid as CPU. So I'm going to go with 3 extenders. I don't know if that's a great idea, but we're going to try it. Yeah, and so that's...
Very quiet in here.
Yep, we're all fitting our ships.
I thought it was a class about how to be quiet on comms.
Oh, well, that too. Fit up a Gnosis triple.
Alright.
And then justify it once you're done. So for kitey things, a lot of people might want to put
Any kind?
yeah, whatever you want it to do. People might want shield boosters instead of shield extenders. The problem with that is that shield boosters take a lot of CPU. Shield extenders take more power grid than CPUs. Shield extenders take more power grid than CPU. Shield boosters take more CPU than power grid. We don't have a lot of CPU to work with. So we are going to go with extenders. It doesn't feel great, but we'll see how it works. And then we're going to add on a hardener to get more shield resists across the board. So this is just a multi-spectrum shield hardener. It's giving us 26% more resists across the board, giving us more EHP, right? Before it looks like this, 35k. After it looks like this, 42k. So that's a nice little boost to our hit points. And then, last but not least, we will throw on a point, because we want to be able to hold our target down, right? We don't want them to leave, so we get a warp disruptor. Okay, so that's the mid slots. It's not amazing, but it will work. Okay, let's move over to the low slots. You'll notice I'm doing high slots last on this, because as a speedy ship, I want to make sure that I go fast enough and that I have sort of my other needs met before we get to damage. So let's do this. The easiest way to get a slow ship to go faster without sort of oversizing a prop mod or something like that is with nanos. So nanos and
People fitting stuff right
overdrives.
now. What's the task?
We are fitting a Gnosis for whatever job you want it to do. In about 2 minutes, we're going to stop and have a look at what people have. So I'm going to do 2 nanos. That gets me up to 1400 meters per second, which is actually pretty decent. That's 2k heated, which is not terrible for battlecruiser. damage control, because you can never go wrong with the damage
Does it
control.
matter if it's tier 1 fit, tier 2 fit, or tech 2, tech 1?
Whatever you can manage.
Alright.
Okay. So there's our damage control, which is just going to give us more resist across the board, right? 39 up to 48k EHP. You'll notice actually that the nanos dropped our hit points as well, right? Without the nanos, we're at 52. Putting on the nanos takes us down to 48. The nano reduces our hull HP. But that's okay. That is a trade-off that we're willing to make. So I'm going to leave these last 3 empty for the moment because we need to decide on our damage first, and then we'll put our damage modules in here. So we'll head over here, and we want long-range weapons, something that is long-range and deals enough damage to be worth it. Let's go with railguns. Cool. There's all our railguns, and then we can go back and do our low slots here. Our weapon upgrades, and we can put on mag stabs. Now, big question here, do we fit a 3rd mag stab, or do we go with a tracking enhancer? Python would help us answer this question a lot more. If we were open to open the third-party tool Python Fitting Assistant, we could get some more information about how well the guns track against different targets and know if we need a tracking enhancer or if a max stab is pretty good. My skills are good for tracking, and I know that railguns in general track pretty well, so I'm going to do a 3rd mag stab and hope that that's okay.
When is diminishing returns too much to put on? Like, how much diminishing would you allow your ship to be put through?
Great question. 3 is generally sort of the agreed upon wisdom. 3 of the same module or 3 of the same type of thing that the ship is doing. When you get to 4 and 5, your diminishing returns are probably outweighing the cost of that slot on your ship, right? Because you want to use all your slots as efficiently as possible. So 3 is generally the magic number. You'll see ratting ships with 4 damage modules, for example. That's fine because they're specifically fit to do one thing, which is just a ton of damage, and they're not super worried about using those low slots for something else. But for other applications, 3 is kind of the magic number.
Alright.
Good question.
Appreciate it.
All right, so that fills out all our modules. We have 1 empty high slot. We can get to that in a second, although we're pretty much out of CPU, so we're probably going to leave that empty, and that's okay. We've used up all of our turret hard
Shield
points.
hardeners and shield extenders. Would you have more than one of those, or?
Yep, for sure. So, again, up to 3, although shield hardeners, here's the difference. This actually goes for armor as well. For hardeners versus plates. Hardeners decrease the... How do you put this?
The percentage decrease of incoming damage.
Right, and extenders just increase your overall hit points. So hardeners make it so that the incoming damage, if it's low enough for you to tank already, those are better. But if you do no extenders or no plates, then you run into a situation where you might have really good resists, but your overall hit points are very low, and so you'll just die anyway. So generally a mix of both is actually what you're looking for.
Alright.
Okay, and our last thing here is rigs. So we're going to do rigs, and I want a little bit more mobility and some damage. So actually, yeah, a little bit more mobility and some damage. So we'll go to astronautic rigs, and we'll probably go with thrusters.
Alright, I think I'm done with mine.
Cool. Go ahead and link it in Fleet or in Flying Dangerous. Well, actually, let's just make it simple. Go ahead and link it in Fleet when you guys are done with your fits. Then damage. So hybrid weapons. And let's see. Okay, so we're instantly running into a problem with power grid, so we're probably not going to be able to fit any weapon stuff on here. And that's okay. We will go with something else. We're at 2 minutes and 20 seconds on cap, which is probably not great, but it's
I
something.
recognize Roach's fit.
Do you?
Yep.
I changed it up a bit.
Did you?
310,
A little bit.
246 now.
Mine's
cap
a ratting
really
fit,
isn't
so I
gonna do
just
us
kind of
much good
took
here.
what knowledge I had of a ratting fit and put it into this.
All right. I guess we're not going to get.
Oh yeah, I
what
didn't
we
put
wanted
any
out of here.
drones. I gotta put some drones. Don't pay attention to Emperor's Zerg.
Polycarb, and we'll put one tanky thing on there just to get a little more shield, I guess. Those are both Tech 2. So probably not great for new players, but that's okay. All right, there we go. Okay, let's start looking at these that you guys have dreamt up here.
Well, I'm linking mine now.
All right, Triple, what's yours designed for?
Mine's designed for the ideal situation is 0-0 on a gate, or ready to engage something. I want them to aggress me, and I want to grab, scram, and web something juicy for the fleet to kill. That's what it's designed for. Mostly 0-0, I'd say. You want me to explain the fit?
No, that's pretty good. Just a general idea there. That's perfect. So as we go through these, that what Triple just did is kind of what I want you guys to do. Some of you have put it in your ship's name. Some of you have just said it out loud. I'll just go through and ask you to say it out loud again. We'll go through this pretty quickly. So this is very close range damage, hull tanked, so it's still fast enough to grab scram web on something, and it has an MJD to get away, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the new, it comes in handy, but sometimes actually I started using this for intosising too, so I replaced that with an Entosis Link 2. It's fun too to use it for intosising, but whatever, that's a different story.
Nice. Yeah, okay. Solid. Let's look at Sissy's. Sissy, what's this for?
This is for low-sec gate camping. The idea is you aggress first and get point on whatever it is, take gate guns, and stay on the field as long as possible, repping up other stuff as it gets engaged by gate guns, as they also aggress. Armor rep over shield rep, and the small guns are to keep small stuff off you. Go ahead.
Would you switch for? Actually, they're both ancils, huh? Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. So, and the skirmish command is for those juicy interdiction maneuvers charges to get the extra point range, scram range.
Nice. Okay. Yeah, very tanky, so you can take gate guns for a while, and then you're just kind of support for the rest of the fleet because they're going to be doing the damage, right?
I am of the philosophy that if you're going to hull tank a Gnosis, you better do full hull tank.
Yep, I like it. So you guys will notice he's foregone any damage modules in his load. He's got full tank, right? That's what he's saying. He's not there to do damage. He's there to tank damage.
And I guess Triples was like that too. He was half and half.
So Roach, I'm guessing this is a ratting fit. Do you want to describe it?
Yeah, it's for Garista ratting. It was designed to output the most kinetic damage while resisting the most kinetic damage, specifically for Garista ratting.
Yep. So for those of you that don't know, Garistas deal kinetic and thermal damage, mostly kinetic, so he's specifically tanked against that kind of damage. Surprisingly, even with sort of the faction modules on there, it's still an extremely cheap fit. It's cheaper than my Tech 2 version. And then he's got a lot of sort of shield regen and some drone damage to round it out. I'm curious, why drone damage and not ballistic controls? Are the missiles just kind of auxiliary and you're relying on most of your damage from the drones?
That's correct.
I can. This is a fit. I think I originally linked. I did the math. It's you get with mediums, you get better damage increase with drone damage as opposed to missile damage.
Nice. So these wasps then
Are not ideal. I don't think. I think you want 5 mediums as opposed to 2 heavies.
Consider travel time when you're considering DPS of drones versus missiles.
But you're saying I should swap the...
You want to use hammerheads or
Vespas.
Vespas,
Vespas.
not wasps. And then the drone damage amplifier provides a bit better of a overall damage buff than the 2 ballistic controls. I've also tried splitting it before, so 1 ballistic, 1 drone damage, but the amount of damage provided is roughly equal.
But the kinetic damage specifically from the Wasp would be amplified because the Wasp does the most kinetic, right?
You
Right.
can't.
It's two wasps versus 5 Vespas. So you gotta take that into account. You also have to take into account the travel time as the drones move between targets.
An application.
Yep, they'll track better as well because they're smaller.
My skills, I'm getting just more
Alright,
damage.
we're going to continue this discussion after class.
All right, sounds good. Moving on to Emperors. Tell us about your fit.
It's pretty much the same thing as Pops or Roach Eaters.
Okay, so some things I want to talk about here. The tracking enhancer in your low slot is doing nothing for you here. Tracking enhancer is for turrets. You have no turrets. You're using all missiles and drones. The tracking enhancer is doing nothing. You have medium shield extenders on here, and I didn't mention this earlier, but it's definitely something that everyone should take note of. Medium shield extenders go on small ships. It's weird. Don't ask me, ask CCP. Small shield extenders go on nothing. They're useless. Medium shield extenders go on frigates and destroyers, and large shield extenders go on cruisers, battle cruisers, and battleships.
Okay.
So you can almost double your tank with large shield extenders. The problem you're going to run into is CPU. And if you look, kind of all the modules you're fitting are taking up way more CPU than I think probably you want. So you gotta, make some trades there and get more CPU back. Like that probe launcher is probably taking way more CPU than it is justified by.
Okay.
I guess it's not that much. It gets a bonus to that, doesn't it? But yeah, you got to pick like between the drone nav computer and sort of all those lows are taking a lot of CPU as well. And then last thing here, we talked about not dual tanking. We've got shield tank in the mid slots, and we have armor tank in the rigs. So that's a no-go there.
I didn't realize it was armor. I meant to do all shield tank.
Okay, yeah, so you'll want to find shield rigs then in that case.
Okay. I messed up there by not reading enough.
Nope, it's okay. That's what we're here for. Alright, let's look at Kimball's, the Chitinosis. Let's see how close this is to the one that I fit. It's pretty close. Tell us about it, Kimball.
I figured, something quick. It can hit out to point range, no problem. It can go up against something brawly and keep its range.
Tell us about your prop mod.
Yeah, it's overpropped, so that way it's essentially faster than 95% of what's out there.
Yep, very true. So the prop mod size for ships of this size are 50 MN or 10 MN, depending on if it's micro warp drive or afterburner. He's got a 500 MN micro warp drive on there. What is the drawback to fitting that, Kimball?
Well, fitting space, it uses up a lot of power grid.
Yep.
Uses
So
a
he's got
lot of
these on there.
capacitor.
And
Can't turn.
you can't
And
turn.
agility, while it's on.
You can't. This thing turns like an aircraft carrier. You go in a straight line or not at all.
5 times 21 seconds.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Cool. I like that fit. I think maybe even better than the one that I did. Yeah, cool. All right, Drake-based Explorer. Thomas, tell us about it.
It's passive tanked, and it's to go into wormholes and go into combat sites there. So
I like it.
nothing special. It's just passively tanked. It's omni tanked because it's a Gnosis, but also because sleepers are omni damage.
Yep, you have Purgers on there for your regen, then you have 3 low slots taking up more regen slots, and actually your shield extenders are going to increase the regen too. So you don't need a booster on this to tank the lower tier rats. You can kind of just passively regen the damage. And that's where the probe launcher comes in too. Cool, I like it.
He split the damage.
Yeah, he's got 1 and 1. Have you done the math on that? know that that's good?
I think it's slightly worse, but yeah. I think the
Payload.
missiles do slightly more. If
Right,
you
so-
do 2 ballistics.
Yeah, so a couple of just notes for anyone else who's paying attention to what we're talking about. We're talking about there's one drone damage amplifier and there's one ballistic control. It seems like the prevailing wisdom from what people are saying is that 2 ballistic controls is the way to go, and that the drones are unbonus, but they just kind of provide some extra damage.
Yeah, but you lose out, but you still have reload time and
Yep, that's
range.
true.
I've also run into range issues with missiles while running sites before, where drones can reach out farther than missiles.
He's got a tracking, or a missile computer for that, which is nice.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
We're going to look at one more. We're going to look at whims, and then we got to get going here. We're 10 minutes over our time.
Oh, it's bad.
Yes, it is. Tell us about it.
Wanted to go for long range. I ran out of time, and I ran out of power grid. So
It's interesting to run out of power grid on a Gnosis. It should be really hard to do. Usually you run out of CPU. It's really terrible on CPU, but you found a way to run out of power grid, which I admire. But you have larges on it. You have a 10 MN. Sorry, what was the purpose again? What did you want to fit this to do?
as long a range as I could get.
Okay, and
So
then
sniping from far off.
tell us about the EM shield extender as opposed to, or EM hardener as opposed to a multi-spec.
Didn't find it when I was looking through the hardeners.
Okay, so you would probably put one of those on there, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
And then fit rigs on it. And actually, this would not be terrible if you could get into an ESS first and burn out to range before any enemies came in there. Just be far away and plink at them from quite a ways away, and that wouldn't be bad. It's it's got the afterburner, so you can move out there. It goes almost 600, well, 540, yeah. That could do. All right. Sorry, we're a little truncated on time today. We do have an operation to do, but hopefully you guys found this useful. I highly recommend that you guys just kind of practice this all the time. Again, it is one of the most important things in EVE is fitting. Fit ships and then just post them in Flying Dangerous and say, this is for X, right? You'll notice as we went through, I didn't just judge the ship based on how it was fit. I asked you guys what it's for, and then we can properly judge it. So always say, this ship is for X. What do you guys think of the fit? And just do that all the time with a bunch of different kind of ships. You'll learn a ton doing it yourself.
And it's a lot of fun.
It is.
Yeah, that was fun.
Excellent.
Here's
Glad
a
to hear that.
Go try to Dragoon, see what happens.
Sorry, Sissy, what?
Exactly.
Go try to fit a Dragoon. Those things are fascinating to fit because they can do 20 different things.
Yeah, Dragoons are freaking weird. All right, cool. I'm going to ping in just a second. We are 11 minutes late. If you're coming on the fleet, go ahead and hop down to Fleet 1. I'm going to kill the stream. Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks for the class.
Thanks, Zip.
Yeah, appreciate it.
All right, cool. Thanks for coming, everybody. Hope you learned something. Hope you had fun. Sorry for the short stream, but we do have to get to some strategic stuff. So go fit ships. Have fun. See you guys later.